Herbert Baumeister, also called just Herb Baumeister, was an American serial killer who was guilty of murdering as many as 11 verified people and is still suspected of murdering many more. Nicknamed the I-70 Strangler, in addition to the murders, he became famous for his residence, the cursed Fox Hollow Farm, where alleged paranormal phenomena apparently related to his ghost occurred. Herbert Baumeister was born April 7, 1947, in the state of Indiana, and was the son of an anesthesiologist and a homemaker. He had an older sister and 2 younger brothers. He had a fairly quiet childhood, although as an adult he claimed to have been the victim of violence and abuse at the hands of his father. The first strange behaviors arose around the age of 14, when he began to ask himself peculiar questions aloud and played tricks in bad taste. For example, in one instance some classmates heard him wondering what urine might taste like, and once he placed a dead crow back on his desk. Net of these events just narrated, he is singled out at school as a weirdo, and his father even decides to have him take some psychological tests. After graduation, he finds it difficult to find a job, so his father works to help him by calling on some acquaintances. Just at that time he meets Juliana Sater, and after a period of dating, they marry in 1971. From the marriage 3 children will be born. However, in the future Juliana will admit that she had only 6 sexual relationships with her husband in the beauty of 25 years. Shortly after getting married, he ends up being treated in a psychiatric hospital, where he stays for a full 2 months. But this does not lead to much improvement in his mental condition. He tends to be seen as a sociable man, but with abnormal behavior. On one New Year's Eve, he sends photographs to his acquaintances in which he is dressed as a woman, and when he is hired at the DMV, he urinates several times on the director's desk. This will lead to his inevitable dismissal. Despite all the oddities, Herbert Baumeister is an ambitious man and dreams of opening his own business. In 1988, thanks to a loan, he opens Savalot, a store that collects second-hand items and merchandise donated by benefactors and then resells them at a low price, sharing the proceeds with the entities. Such entrepreneurial enlightenment leads him to become so rich and successful that he even opens a second branch of the business. With his earnings, he buys an 18-acre estate in a rather wealthy suburb just outside Indianapolis, complete with a swimming pool and barn. What will later be referred to as the Bloody Fox Hollow Farm. Herbert Baumeister lived a peculiar existence because of his psychiatric problems, but still seemingly normal, with a marriage, children, and a profitable business. But at the same time, he roamed a few gay bars hunting for potential victims. When he lured someone, he would then take them to his estate and strangle them. He would later burn the remains and bury them in the 18 acres that soon became a hidden cemetery. In early 1990, investigators began looking into disappearances of gay men of similar age, height, and weight in the Indianapolis area. In 1992, they were contacted by a man who told them that a man named Brian Smart had murdered a friend of his. The investigation led nowhere until August 1995, when that same witness came across the serial killer again and jotted down the license plate number of the car he was driving. In a flash, police identified the phantom Brian Smart as Herbert Baumeister. All those creepy horror murders were coming to an end. In June 1996, Herbert Baumeister's wife consented to a search at Fox Hollow Farm while her husband was on vacation. The search of the horror estate led to the remains of 11 men and many bones. 8 victims were identified, while the others could not be linked to a name. As soon as the arrest warrant was triggered, the serial killer fled to Ontario and on July 3, 1996, shot himself in the head. He left a letter where he described his suddenly failing marriage and business as the reason for his suicide, without mentioning the murders at all. The investigation and search continued after his death, and he was linked to many other victims, including 12 bodies they had found in 1980 on Interstate 70 between Indianapolis and Columbus. For years, the serial killer's estate remained uninhabited, no one approaching it being aware of the grisly affair that took place there. Only after a few years did Mr. and Mrs. Graves decide to buy it, renovate part of it, and move in. They could not imagine what happened later. Recurrent paranormal activities began to occur at the cursed Fox Hollow farm, including, one day, while Vicki Graves was cleaning, something in the house unplugged her vacuum cleaner cord from the outlet several times. Yet at that moment she was alone. Often the doors slammed on their own as if propelled by an unseen force. They spotted some shadows wandering around the rooms. They found a human femur that had been buried at the very spot on the ground adjacent to the house where they had glimpsed a shadow several times. According to the owners of the house, the ghost of Herbert Baumeister also wandered among those rooms, as well as those of his many victims. Fox Hollow Farm was visited by many paranormal investigators and studied by demonologists who claimed to have perceived presences belonging to the world of the dead.